Good morning, you guys. It's time to rise and thrive. I am Trisha Turner. It is 9 a.m.-ish. That's what time we come on every Tuesday morning. It is live to you to, number one, bring you positivity. And Rise and Thrive is a podcast centered around the four principles that are most important to me, which is faith, family, finances, and fitness. And every week, my goal is to bring to you someone that is, I believe, excelling in one or all of those. And not just that, but they're out there making a difference in not just real estate, but in the lives of others. And this morning, I want to bring you Cynthia, who is making a huge difference. If you are not sure about homeowners insurance or the cost of it and how dramatically it is affecting the real estate market, I don't know where you have been, but I've been in this for about 20 years now. And insurance, homeowners insurance, of course, is something that is in every real estate transaction. And for the longest time was very affordable, and not only affordable, but competitive. There was over 100 agencies in Texas alone. So shopping for insurance wasn't a big deal. You could pretty much call any of these agencies and get a pretty comparable quote. There were some of them that were extremely expensive, and then there was some that were, bottom of the barrel. And then there was a lot of mix. Nowadays, in the last couple of years, probably 2, maybe even 3, we're going to hear, it's become, number one, not affordable. And number 2, you can't shop around and even get different quotes. Sometimes, and especially in different states, you're stuck with just one carrier. So Cynthia, for one, thank you so much for coming on this morning in such a time when people don't understand what's going on and they're struggling, and the housing market is struggling. Share a little bit of your backstory for everyone that doesn't know you, though, and how long you've been doing what you're doing.
Okay, well, first, thank you for that introduction. I very much appreciate it. It's my honor to be here. It's my honor to serve. A little bit about me. My name is Cynthia Guerra. I am the owner agent of the Cynthia Guerra Agency, which is an exclusive Allstate agency. We do offer third-party carriers beyond Allstate as well. And just to tell you a little bit about my, journey here, I actually started in insurance. Oh, and I hate to even say how long ago it was because it's going to age me, but about 23 years ago, I worked as an intern for Enterprise Rent-A-Car. And at that time, I got an understanding as to a lot of the clients that came in there were being hit with insurance claims. And I got to see that. And then I went into, I was an underwriter for a few years after that. And then I actually was staying in insurance, and there was a major accident that occurred that affected my life, and I had to change directions, and I moved into medical sales, right? I did that because ultimately my calling has always been helping people, and people said, Cynthia, you need to get in sales. I never wanted to be in sales. I want to help people, right? And so, but it turned into, okay, I'm going to go into that community to help people. And I did that for quite some time until the market changed immensely, and it no longer felt like I was helping people. It felt like I was just impacting a bottom line. Yeah. And so I changed direction, and I've come full circle. I'm back into insurance, where it feels like I can make a difference. I can make an impact directly. Insurance, very much like the medical industry, is very challenging, very complicated. If you don't have someone who assists you with navigating it, you can end up on the bad end of things, unfortunately. And so it's my honor to be able to help people during this very challenging time, and for my team to be able to do so too.
Which is just crazy. Correct me, or I'm certain I'm going to hit these numbers wrong. Mm-hmm. Help us understand, from what I know, and being in this for a long time, wasn't there previously over 100 different carriers in Texas for insurance?
I don't know that information for sure. Okay. That's a really good question, but I can tell you right now that there are not.
Okay.
In the past few years, for sure, there have been many, many, many carriers that have pulled out of Texas because of the record-breaking claims that continue to be on the rise here. And you're looking at even major carriers pulled out of the home market specifically. We are currently, and this is hard to say as I'm also a homeowner in the area, but Houston specifically in this area is at the center of a national homeowners crisis when it comes to insurance. The Houston metropolitan area has 3 times, I'm going to confirm my notes here. It has the highest average premiums in the state, with communities closest to the coast paying 3 times higher than the national average for homeowners insurance. And then the state specifically, we are second in the country for having the highest premium.
What's first, California or Florida?
It's Florida and Louisiana.
Really?
And now I would imagine California has moved up. I'll tell
I
you
would
that.
think.
Yeah, for sure.
I have heard previously that one of the reasons our insurance is so high is because of these hail claims and litigation. Is that true?
Yes, absolutely. So severe weather, definitely, it directly impacts your insurance. The 3 things that are going to be the highest are going to be frequent and severe inclement weather, which we've been having, rising repair, building, and labor costs. We're having major hurricanes in our area, as well as not just the hail. And then all of these higher risks equal higher premiums for those of us that are consumers. And one thing that we have to understand that a lot of people don't know about the insurance industry. I learned this, when I was an underwriter, actually, that insurance carriers, standard insurance carriers like Allstate, State Farm, Hartford, whomever you want to say, they're taking a risk, right, on all of the insureds that they are insuring. And they're doing that with projections based on data from the past. We're projecting we're going to have this number of losses, so we can charge this amount of premium and we can stand a profit.
Okay.
Well, when things change, if there's any sort of disastrous, catastrophic claims, they acquire what's called reinsurance. Reinsurance is insurance that provides coverage past that baseline expectation for catastrophic claims.
Okay.
So since we've been having record-breaking claims, reinsurance carriers have been having to pay regularly and a lot. And now their rates have gone up tremendously, which has then come down to our standard carriers, which is then trickling down to us. And it's all because of the climate. It's all because of this weather.
Which is crazy. And when you look at it, like, I would think on the weather, like, and I don't know on a national level, but the weather you would think is kind of the norm, like throughout the country, like people are experiencing the same kind of conditions. Why is Texas and especially Houston so high?
We're having regular, not just hurricanes, that are now causing a lot more claims. So you got to think about, we're having like a hurricane barrel, for example, but then the cost of labor has gone up, the cost of goods has gone up. So whereas previously, even if we didn't have as much inclement weather, maybe it didn't impact, maybe they were below the average deductible. Now almost everything's beyond that deductible because the costs have skyrocketed so much. And then the population in Houston and Texas has grown as well.
Yeah.
So with that, more people comes higher risk, more incidents too.
Explain this, because I've never really understood it. I just accept it as it is what it is. When you're in a housing and you're going to buy a house and you're getting homeowners insurance quotes, there's a dramatic difference in the premium versus a new home versus a resale home, and age definitely impacts that premium. Why is that?
So when you're thinking about a newer home, you've got a brand new roof, you've got brand new construction. The quality of that work is probably higher. There's not been this strong, this Texas weather that comes at us. Just that sun beating down on our roofs is causing damage every single day.
Yes.
So you're getting a brand new roof that does not have that exposure, so that if some inclement weather comes in, it's going to be more easily damaged because of just the exposure to our weather. And Texas weather is very harsh.
It is.
So a newer home is going to be able to withstand these storms when they're coming, this hail when it comes, versus a home that's already been being deteriorated by the weather that we have every single day.
So when you're looking at, like for us in the real estate world, when we're thinking of our buyers, if somebody is maybe in a financial situation or they're on a very strict budget, like this is exactly what your housing payment needs to be, I would think insurance is going to play into that significantly.
Oh, big time, big time. I got to tell you, now with the way that the insurance market is, people are genuinely thinking, can I afford to buy a house? Not just can I afford to pay a mortgage, but can I afford to pay for the
Yeah.
insurance? And that's a real concern for homeowners here in Texas. And it's very valid. So it's very important to make sure that as a homeowner, that you're comfortable with the insurance that you get.
When you look at like premiums and things like this, I know roofs, like when we're doing inspections on homes or we're having an inspector do it, we always are like, okay, what's a deal breaker? Well, what's a deal breaker? A roof, foundation, AC, electrical, like these big ticket items. Now we're hearing like when inspectors are going out, they're kind of sounding a little bit of an alarm. They're like, hey, just FYI, if that roof is more than 10 years old, the insurance company may not insure that home. Is that true?
Well, it may be true for some carriers, but I'm very happy to say that Allstate, my particular company, is happy to write roofs that are over 10 years old. Okay?
Yay!
So those of us, including myself, who purchased a home that had a roof that was over 10 years old, I'm insured with Allstate, and it wasn't a problem. But there are other things that you also want to consider that I didn't consider years back when I purchased my home, but with this inclement weather, with hurricanes, that we need to think about, like those big, beautiful trees that are by your home. Are they on top of your roof? Are they right next to it so that if a hurricane comes, it's going to fall directly on top of your house?
Yeah.
Because that is something that we now, as homeowners or as people trying to acquire insurance, need to be considering when buying that home, or on that side of, okay, let's make sure that the seller is covering anything that I'm going to have to pay for on my side. Is this tree trimmed back to make sure that it's not over that roof? Because otherwise, a buyer might get insurance or acquire insurance. Inspectors are going out regularly now, or fairly regularly, when insurance is acquired, and they'll see that tree and they'll say, if you want to keep insurance, you better cut that tree back. And that could cost hundreds, if not over thousands of dollars if it's a large tree. So it's just something to keep in mind for home buyers, for realtors, to make sure that it helps them to be able to get insurance.
One thing that we've been experiencing, which is super sad, and especially within the last 2 years, is housing affordability for elderly. The elderly, a lot of them have been in their homes 10, 20, because that's like the American dream. Like, you're going to buy a home and then you're going to stay in your home forever, 30-year mortgage, and you're going to pay it off and die in that home. And a lot of them have that mindset. So we have dealt with so many elderly people that have been in their home 20, 25 years. Because of their situation, financial, because of inflation and the cost of living, they have pulled cash out of their home. And then, of course, when their insurance premium comes due, now with the cost of insurance being a lot more, and they've got equity that they tapped into and pulled out of, a lot of them can't afford their new payment based on their fixed income, and they're having to sell and become renters. But then the cost of rent is so high, they don't know what to do, and they end up moving in with in-laws. What can elderly people do, or is there anything that we can do to help negate that?
So on the cost of insurance side specifically?
Yeah.
Okay. So I actually have a large book of business that has a large elderly population, right?
Okay.
So we do get this often. And so that's where it's very important to have an agent or an agency that is your advocate.
Yep.
They'll call us and say, costs are going up. I'm still on this fixed income. I want to have insurance, but I can't afford insurance. And so, call your insurance provider. If you don't have a provider that you feel like you can talk to like that, get one. Call my agency. And what we do is we'll do an insurance review, because sometimes coverage, they've had older coverage that's not up to date with their current lifestyle. Some things, sometimes they may be overinsured, sometimes they may be underinsured. There are some changes that we can do to find some cost savings for them. And that's very important. My team will try to hunt those savings down for you.
Okay. And I'm imagining there's probably I don't know, is there some kind of like senior citizen discount? Do they get some kind of a rate difference?
It's already included in the rate. Well, there is, if they're retired, there is a discount. And so that would be included in our rate specifically. On the, that is, they're going to get that plus long history, plus safe, no claims. They're going to get all of those things, but we're going to make sure to check that nothing's fallen off for them, because sometimes that is the case, that maybe they made a change and they lost a discount. Let's see, let's find out. But if you do not bring it to your agent's attention, they may not notice, unfortunately. And so
No.
it's important.
When you look at the cost, like we just watched California get, burned up, and, people are saying now just the cost to rebuild and clean up is going to be catastrophic. And some of the biggest, it'll be one of the most expensive natural disasters in history. Can we expect, because of how happened in California, to trickle down over the rest of our insurance nationwide, the cost?
I don't believe so. I believe that that's going to be a California and a federal thing, not a Texas thing. So just like, Hurricane Beryl hit us, no one paid for that but us. And we are still paying for it. That's just the truth.
I bet.
Yeah.
And when you look at that, because I look at it now, like, we can go years without any named storms and everything seems like great. And then all of a sudden we're like bombarded, and people, moan and complain about the cost of insurance, but it's like, hold on a second. Like, when you tally up the cost to like repair these homes or replace them or whatever, that in itself is substantial. And I think when you look at insurance companies, there's a lot of them that have went out of business. And then a lot of them, because we're dealing with it in our real estate transactions, that are refusing to write new policies here in Texas. Like, they'll keep servicing their existing, but they're like, yeah, but we're not adding anything new. Are you guys seeing that as well?
We as Allstate are not doing that ourselves. We are definitely seeing it in the market. And then just to reassure you, to go back to your question about, are we going to be impacted by California? I think we can feel good because our insurance rates are also based on our specific location and zip codes. So they're in a very different state than us. So thankfully, we're dealing with Texas issues and staying with Texas issues, right? But to go, can you remind me what your question was right now? Sorry.
Yeah. The people that are not writing new policies, these agencies, they're just servicing theirs or not writing them at all.
Yes. So we've seen a lot of that. And we've seen a lot of that even with standard carriers that were known for writing homeowners insurance, that they just pulled out of the market. Allstate has made a point to say, we want to stay here in Texas, and we're adjusting rates for that reason. So in some cases, the rates might be a little bit higher in certain areas, but we're doing it based on, like I said, zip code specific, not just, and then certain areas in that zip code that continue to have these same type of risks, so that we're trying not to make it across the board for everyone.
Okay.
But one thing to consider as a consumer that is very challenging because it's impacting our pockets is that the rates are going up in some cases to make sure that we can stay here. That your insurance carrier is not pulling out, that when you want to buy a home, that you can get insurance, and you don't just have these third-party carriers that, aren't as financially sound, may be here today, may not be here tomorrow type of thing. So, it's a value add that's there to make sure that you can consistently have this insurance.
We've also heard this myth, or whatever it may be, about coastal properties, and that some, like a lot of carriers, are refusing to even write policies on coastal policies. Are we seeing that here in Texas, or is that just like a Florida thing?
Well, it kind of depends. So when you're talking about wind and hail specifically, hurricane, there are a lot of carriers that do not write that coverage. And so, I can tell you right now, if you're on the coast of Galveston, you're not going to find a standard carrier that's going to write your wind and hail or your tropical cyclone. But with that said, there is Texas has a wind and hail coverage that they offer. And so standard carriers, like myself, it's really important to go to an agent that's familiar with this, familiar with flood, familiar with wind and hail. We will be able to offer the base policy. So if there's a fire, if there's a burglary, if something happens and, there's major damage to your home, but it's not caused by wind, hail, or hurricane, then you'll get coverage. And then your Texas wind and hail policy will cover that wind and hail to make sure that you're still covered.
So it's two separate policies.
Two separate policies. Also, if you were to get a flood policy, that would be a third policy. But you want to get with an agency that can manage all of them to make it easier for you, so that they also understand the purview of coverage to ensure that you are properly covered, even in these coastal areas that are more challenging.
So people are probably listening, thinking, because my mind went there, thinking, well, if I want to go get a house on the beach, maybe I'll just get a standard policy. They can't because it's going to be required that they also get that wind and hail, right?
Well, it's going to be required if you have a mortgage,
Okay.
right? If you have a mortgage, depending on what your mortgage looks like, they're going to say, we want this asset protected.
Yep.
Right. And we want it protected in this certain manner.
Okay.
I do know some people that have their homes that are paid off and they prefer to self-insure. So for them, they said, okay, the only concern that I'm going to make sure that I'm worried about is my house burns from the ground up. So that's what I'm covering. And I'm going to self-insure if there's a hurricane, if there's wind and hail. I've got, I've got a construction company that I know very well. I've got a roofer that will give me a good deal. I'm putting money away on the side. So it's not necessarily required. It just depends. We're all different. We all have different budgets. We all have different, risk tolerances too.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes.
Yeah. So it's just figuring out what works for you, because there are a lot of options that help you stay within budget. Just understanding things and having someone who shares that information with you so that you can understand and make a decision that works for you is most important.
I did not know that insurance was on is this normal for it to be, does every carrier look by zip code, or is that just Allstate?
No, most carriers, well, I know Allstate specifically does, right? And we're in the realm of, we understand this is a hard market, right?
Yeah.
So we understand, along with the inclemental weather, we also have, more population coming in. With more people comes higher risk because of, the behavior of people too, right?
Okay.
So we're trying to make sure that we really break down into that data to try to give those rates, those higher rates, to the people and to the specific areas that are responsible for the majority of claims, versus having to just blanket increased rates across every single person, right?
That's fascinating, because I had no idea that. I thought it was always based on county, like here it's Fort Bend or Harris County. Does that have nothing to do with it?
Well, it does in general. So like Harris County, for example, one of the top 3 counties for highest losses in Texas. The other 2 are in the Dallas area.
Okay.
But with that said, there are some areas in Harris County that we can write wind and hail in. And there are some zip codes that we may or may not be able to, depending on exactly where their home is, exactly what their exposure is, and so on. So it's not just nothing in Harris County, no wind and hail in Harris County. It's very specific to try to customize the rate for your personal exposure as well.
So a home buyer that's out there on their home search, I would think it's critical that they almost shop insurance first. Like if I'm going to look in 77433 versus 77441, which one is going to be more affordable to me if financing is a big issue for them?
Yeah, I'm not going to lie, Trisha. I know about this. Now I'm on the inside, and if I were to be buying a home, I would look at the zip code and say, okay, is this highly likely to be written, most likely, or most likely not to be written? Because when we get to that most likely not, those zip codes are going to cost a lot of money.
Okay.
And there's going to be fewer insurance carriers that are going to insure them. And that would be like my first route of thinking.
Okay.
And then for sure, I would also look at, okay, I'm looking at this home. I'm very serious. Let's see if we can get what a price would look like, to see if I can afford the insurance and the mortgage.
So when you look at like what's affordable and what's indicative on their price, there's a lot of people that say, well, you've got bad credit, so you're a higher risk and your premium is higher. Is that true?
Yes. Well, yes and no, but credit is one of the factors that are considered. Okay. There's this thing called an insurance score, and it looks at a multitude of things that are factored into your risk assessment. So that could be definitely your credit. Also, what area do you live in? What zip code? Are you retired? Are you not retired? How much are you driving? What's your prior claim history? And that's not just including property claims. It's also including your auto claims.
Okay.
So a lot of people don't realize that when they have a claim on their record, if they call their insurance company and they made a claim, for a possible or an auto incident, and there was zero paid out, they did the same thing for a home incident, zero paid out. That claim is now on their record for 3 to 5 years. And all insurance carriers look at that loss history, and they look at it as, oh, well, this was an incident. This was a claim. That increases the risk, and that increases the rate. So I personally advise friends and family, before you make a claim, call me, talk to your agent, understand what your deductible is, go get a quote, understand, how much it's going to cost to repair this, and what your insurance would actually pay to ensure that you're going to get paid and it makes sense for you and it's in your personal best interest before you make that claim and it's on your record. If there's a risk of it being a zero payout, that could hurt your rate for the next 3 to 5 years. You could be paying for that.
So in the grand scheme of things for people, because it's February, people are thinking of making a move, thankfully, because they haven't for the last couple of years. And they're thinking, okay, after listening to this, they're like, well, I didn't realize how important insurance was and how much I really need to be shopping for that prior to looking at a home. What are some of the other factors that can differentiate their cost of homeowners insurance besides credit and zip code?
Having insurance. So I tell people, and this is something I learned the hard way myself, right? These two things I learned about the loss history. I owned a home previously, and then I went a period of time where I sold my home and I rented. And in that period of time, I got renter's insurance. I was traveling. I had my backpack with me stolen. I had a couple of laptops, a couple of headsets. That was work and personal. Anyway, thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
And I, at that time, had an insurance agent that said, yeah, if you want to make a claim, you can make a claim. But they didn't ask me further questions as to no one talked to me about how that would impact me, right? They just, you've got the coverage. If you want to make it, no problem. And it was easy. And I got a couple $1,000s from it. After that, I bought a home. 2 years later, bought a home. I could not get insurance from a standard carrier because I had that one claim on my record as a renter for $2,000.
Wow.
Yes. So it raised my insurance by more than $2,000 annually because I couldn't get with a standard carrier because I had that one claim on my record. And it was assessed along with that, plus the area I was buying a home, plus the age of my home, all of these things.
Yeah.
Suddenly I'm paying a lot more than I got for that little baby claim there. So that's why I say about the loss history. The second thing is I did not understand at that time was that renters policies actually are considered property policies, right? So if you're going to buy a home, one of the things that is a positive for you is a continuous amount of insurance history, right? So the longer you've had history of having insurance and the longer also you've been with a carrier, that will impact your rate and lower it. So if you're going to buy a home, I always advise people, get a renter's policy. It's anywhere from $12 to $20 some a month.
Cheap.
So it's cheap. You're paying like less than $200 and you're starting your history, and hopefully you have no losses, but you're starting a no loss history on the property side of things, which will help you when it's time to get insurance. It'll help your rate.
I was talking to a girl that I know about a month ago, and she's an adjuster for an insurance company. And she said, one of the things you need to be talking to your people about is a lot of these insurance companies have new endorsements in their policies written where it's almost a way out for the insurance company not to pay. And so she was giving me an example. She said a house that she went and did an adjustment on, or she had to go, and do the investigation. It had flooded, not flooded, but the downstairs had a broken pipe and it had flooded the downstairs. Well, further investigation revealed that it wasn't a broken pipe that started it. It was just a little pinhole in one of the pipes that led to that. And in their insurance policy, there was an endorsement, something along the lines of, if it's a pinhole or something like that, it is not covered. And so their claim was denied. Is that factual? Do you hear of that?
So I wouldn't say that insurance endorsements are, they're putting those things on there to not cover, to keep away from covering things. They're putting things on there to ensure that insurance is used for what you acquire it for.
Okay.
Your homeowner's insurance is going to be for incident, like sudden and accidental incidents, right? To make you whole. They are not for maintenance. That's what a home warranty policy is for, right? So a lot of those things are going to be, was there maintenance that needed to be done on that policy? And then did that actually cover, was that the reason for the loss, right? So that's kind of the difference between, old pipes that haven't been serviced, breaking and causing damage versus a freeze busting your pipes and it's a sudden an accidental incident that caused that damage, right? So your homeowner's insurance is for that sudden and accidental.
Okay, so on pipes, a lot of these older homes have galvanized pipes, and it's just a matter of time before they do burst or get leaks or something happens to that house. Are you seeing any carriers, maybe you know or not, that are denying insuring a property that has old galvanized pipes?
I don't know about other carriers, but I know that we are not.
Okay.
But I will say that pipes are not typically covered in insurance policies or to get them fixed, right?
Okay.
That would, again, that might be a homeowner's warranty policy because that's more for the regular maintenance and service of your house.
Yeah. I love that. I think right now, again, because insurance before, and again, when even in like years ago, 10 years ago, shopping for insurance, it was super easy. And I was a lender too. So when I would be doing quotes for buyers, it was very simple. We had a formula that we would put in for, this is your standard insurance cost monthly. This is your standard tax. Like we could run pretty much an estimate right there with a buyer in minutes and be almost right on within a couple $100 of what their number one premium is going to be every year. And then what their monthly payment's going to be. Nowadays, I don't even try to do it anymore with insurance because like you just said, I didn't even know about some of these variables, but I've seen premiums where I'm like, holy crap, I did not even estimate that. And it knocks buyers completely out of the pool. Yeah. Is there things that buyers can do when they're talking to you about how to, if they're like, I love this house, I know it's in a zip code where the premiums are higher, what can we do to my policy to make it more affordable? Are there things?
There are definitely things. So first, talk to us. Talk to us, let us know what your goal is, and let's talk about your coverages, right? Because sometimes, buyers can go into things and say, I just want the least expensive policy.
Yeah.
Or, I want the very best coverage. I mean, you kind of go, you get those two extremes, right? I want the lowest deductible. All of those come with some sort of price attached to them. So if we understand, and you have to have an agent that you trust too, because I've come across prospective clients that are afraid to tell us what their price is because they think that we are going to magically manipulate numbers to make sure it's that high or whatever it may be. At my agency, we're in the business of helping. We are not trying to overinsure you to take money out of your pocket. We are building long-term relationships to help. But with that said, if we understand what you really are looking for, that's, what is your risk exposure? What are you comfortable with on your deductibles? What do you need in your budget? We can really talk to you, about the coverages that you need and ways that we can get that down. Sometimes, depending on what your mortgage, your lender requires, sometimes you can raise that deductible. And, I will tell you, sometimes you might need to raise a deductible initially to get that premium down.
Yep. And
then when you're in a more comfortable place, and even rates also do change regularly, but you can then assess whether or not, okay, in 6 months, in a year's time, I'm going to lower that deductible. You can always make an endorsement later when you're in a better place to be able to afford something that has a lower deductible too.
Makes huge sense. I was talking to a financial guy a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about the housing affordability crisis and that it is a huge crisis. And with the new president in, what does that mean? And his statement that I really did never think about before was, yes, the president can make changes and we hope mortgage rates eventually come down and there's things that can be done. But overall, the president has no control of the cost of insurance. Is that accurate?
Yes, that's accurate. This is it's a free market, right? And this is not I think federally, you're only talking about federal programs, like what's
Yeah.
going to happen in California, this TWIA program. But specifically when it comes to this market, no one is capping reinsurance on the rates that they're charging insurance companies and carriers and vice versa. So it's trickling down. There's anything. It's based on the market. I will say though, the claims won't be as high and won't trend so high, even if the weather continues to be where it is, if we see the cost of goods and labor go down, because that is directly impacting the claims. Because again, like I said, things that didn't used to surpass deductibles are like regularly surpassing deductibles now. So that means more claims are happening. Things that used to cost a small, lower amount of money are much, much higher. And so if we see some costs go down, that will have an impact.
Well, okay, you just brought hope, because when he said that, I was like, oh crap, like you're right, like we're screwed, but now, like you said, however, if the cost of goods goes down some, then we could maybe see some help, some relief a little bit, because it's always that mindset, like, there's a thing, what goes up must come down, but that's not always the case. Like, you don't always see premiums come down. Sometimes that becomes the new norm, but you believe that there's hope.
Oh, I definitely believe that there's hope.
What do you think about more carriers coming back into the market? Do you think we'll see that?
It's hard to know, to be honest. I think some are coming back, but it just really depends. It really depends on what the market continues to look like. It is a very challenging market.
Yeah.
Some are pulling out of Texas, but I will say that in the recent months, we have seen more carriers coming back. Some that were not writing homes are now starting to write homes.
Okay. Which I think is encouraging then.
Yes, it is. It is encouraging.
With you, well, that leads me to as we're coming like to a close kind of thing, y'all, you hear how, number one, she's extremely knowledgeable, which you better, like you heard from her, you better trust who you're dealing with. You don't want somebody that doesn't understand the market, doesn't understand your needs, doesn't understand financing, the whole gamut. What in the world made you decide to go off and open your own insurance brokerage in the middle of this crazy housing affordability crisis? What are you thinking?
Well, I was a victim of it myself.
Yeah.
That's just the truth. And I've always had a calling on my heart to help people. I got into business and sales specifically because I wanted to help people, and I just wasn't able to do it as directly as I'd like, as I liked to. And so this gives me that ability to impact, especially in a challenging market. This is when you really need people of integrity, people that genuinely want to help you navigate this market. And so for me, that it didn't scare me. It just aligned more with, I'm supposed to be doing this. We need to make sure that we are genuinely offering help to people that want to buy homes, that want, they need this, they need coverage. And if they are just doing what they feel like they have to, I'm going to get the cheapest price. If something happens and they do not have an agent that talk to them about their coverage or their deductibles, and it's a catastrophic loss, this is their highest asset. And suddenly they're at a major loss and had no idea. And it's just very important to me. And it's something that's on my heart to help my community and help others.
Do you, and I don't know, because I've never dealt with like insurance as a business, other than we, of course, direct people to you for insurance. Of course, you're licensed, but are you licensed in other states, or is it all state specific?
All state specific. So I am licensed anywhere in Texas. So we help clients all across Texas, not just the coast, but it's only Texas.
And when you decided to open your own office, I'm sure like branding, because Allstate's been around forever, and State Farm, there's like companies that have been around forever. Why Allstate? What made you decide on Allstate?
So I did my research, right?
Yeah.
I was not going to align with something that, or with a company that didn't align with my values. And Allstate has been around for a long time. Allstate is doing things to make sure they stay in the market for our community. and not to pull out Allstate. I know many people that have all had Allstate for decades.
Yeah.
Even longer than I've been alive.
Right. It's crazy.
And Allstate has been there for them through their claims and through the different changes in their life. And so it was very important to me to find a company that really did offer that.
I love that. Do they still do You're in Good Hands with Allstate?
Yes, you're in good hands.
Yeah.
With Cynthia Garrett Agency at Allstate.
I love that. You guys, like, for one, I could just sit here and keep asking you questions, but y'all, I only met her from another real estate agent, and it's impaired. And of course, now we send everything to her and I've been doing this for a long time, and we've talked to a lot of insurance people, but they come in, they come out. They are not really there for the client. It's just kind of a number. Like, you're there, and we know we trust you. You're doing your due diligence. Can these people afford this? Or is this not a good fit? Can you not even write this policy? And you're not one that's like, oh, I've got to get everything. Like, if you can't save them money or you can't make it happen, you're like, you know what? You're kind of better off where you are right now. I can't save you any money, and your premium looks fine.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think at my agency, the entire team, they have to have a heart to care, to help, right? That's number one hiring principle for me.
Yep.
You have to genuinely want to help people. And we want to do it long term. And sometimes we are going to do an insurance review for you to see what you currently have. And sometimes, based on the market, based on where you're at right now, I might say to you, stay until they kick you out. I might say that to you. And then in 6 months' time, maybe things will be different and we'll still be here. But it really is about just making sure that you have an agent that is not there just to give you a price, just to do a transaction, but to really help advise you with your biggest assets in life.
Yeah,
make sure
I love that.
You're cared for.
So you guys in the real estate world, if you haven't, whether you're new, been doing this forever, whatever your role in life is, number one, you have to have a lender that you're several that like, and trust. And that when you put someone in their possession or in contact with them, that you can leave it there, like stay in your lane. The same with insurance. Like, if you haven't realized now how critical having the right insurance company and agent with you as an extension of you is, it can make or break it for your clients. Because it's one thing for you real estate agents to be out there taking your buyers around and showing them houses that they may or may not be able to afford. But then when they go and fall in love with a home, and because you didn't have them shop the insurance first, once they find out they can't afford this insurance, they have to terminate. Number one, they usually lose money. But number two, it's a home that they have to now mourn the loss of. So never a good thing to overcome, and not even fair to the buyers if you can get ahead of it by dealing with someone that's knowledgeable and skilled in insurance like Cynthia.
Can I speak to that real quick, Tricia?
Yeah, please.
So I did have a client come to me from a realtor who said to me at that time, I really want to know how much my insurance is going to be, because I need to know if I can afford this house.
Yeah.
And that is a valid concern. And it really is, it's really important to make sure that you have an agent that understands that this can be very scary for your home buyer, right? So they're already like, oh, buying a home is scary. Well, now this insurance market is super scary. And so they need to be you need to be able to count on an agent that's going to explain that process to them and going to reassure them and help them to feel comfortable in navigating this scary climate right now.
Yeah.
She was scared initially, but we actually ended up getting her homeowner's insurance, wind and hail, Texas wind and hail insurance, and flood insurance. And we talked about the different deductibles. We did a little bit of movement around based on, what she was comfortable with her budget and her exposure. And she ended up being very happy. But at first, she was thinking, I don't even know if I can afford this.
Oh, yeah. And a lot of times they can't.
Mm-hmm.
But again, like you said, and you guys pay attention to this, like she said, it's zip code, a lot of times zip code specific. So just because they can't afford that house doesn't mean they can't be a home buyer. Just move to a different zip code or let Cynthia shop it for you.
Absolutely. We're here to help.
Yes, I love that. It's so important, number one, that you got on today, because again, as we're, approaching optimism about interest rates coming down and hope about homeowners being able to afford homes again more so than they have been, it's critical. You play a key role in actually getting people into homes. And I can't stress the importance of that enough.
Yes. Well, thank you. Thank you. I
No,
appreciate that. And it's an honor to be able to serve our community and to help these home buyers in this challenging climate.
I love it. Thank you so much for being here. You guys, y'all need to reach out to her. She's licensed in Texas, so she can do it in anywhere in Texas. And I'm sure outside of Texas, because we reach all over, you probably have referral partners that you can refer them to.
Absolutely. I have some trusted agents that I work with every day that are outside of Texas. And I definitely, count on them and would feel very comfortable letting other realtors know about them.
Good. You guys, who you do business with matters. I say it all the freaking time, and it does. You've got to be able to trust the person that you're with, and you've got to be able to know that you're in good hands, right? With Cynthia.
Yes.
I love that. You guys take her phone number down, reach out to her, save her info. If you got insurance out there issues, make sure you let her check your insurance. If you've got buyers that are thinking about buying, call her first and let her get all their stuff done ahead of time so that you don't go out there shopping in a zip code that your people cannot afford.
Yes, absolutely. Give us a call. My team is ready and waiting to help.
I love it. You guys have an awesome day. Tune in next week for another episode of Rise and Thrive. Bye, Cynthia. Thanks, you guys.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.